Hello kids, I hope you had a lovely Easter. Hope the Easter Bunny brought you lots of lovely eggs. I was thinking it might be nice for you to write a little thank you note for the Easter Bunny, maybe draw some pictures in it. Might be a nice thing to do. Well, I hope you're all snuggled up and ready for bed, because I'm going to read you another bedtime story tonight. And tonight I'm going to read you a fairy tale by Terry Jones. And I'm going to be reading The FlyByNight. There's not many pictures, so you'll just have to sit back and listen. So, a little girl was lying in bed one night when she heard a tapping on her window. She was rather frightened, but she went to the window and opened it, telling herself that it was probably just the wind. But when she looked out, do you know what she saw? It was a little creature, as black as soot, with bright yellow eyes, and it was sitting on a cat that appeared to be flying. "Hello," said the creature. "Would you like to come flying?" "Yes, please," said the little girl, and she climbed out of the window onto the cat, and off they flew. "Hang on tight," cried the creature. "Where are we going?" asked the little girl. "I don't know," called the creature. "Who are you?" asked the little girl. "I haven't got a name," said the creature. "I'm just a fly-by-night." And up they went into the air, over the hills and away. The little girl looked around at the bright moon and the stars that seemed to wink at her and chuckle to themselves. Then she looked down at the black world below her, and she suddenly was frightened again and said, "How will we find our way back?" "Oh, don't worry about that," cried the fly-by-night. "What does it matter?" And he leant on the cat's whiskers, and down they swooped towards the dark earth. "But I must be able to get home," cried the little girl. "My mother and father will wonder where I am." "Oh, poop-de-doo," cried the fly-by-night, and he pulled back on the cat's whiskers, and up they soared, up and up into the stars again, and all the stars were humming in rhythm. "Boodle-dum-dee, boodle-dum-da, isn't it great being a star?" And all the stars had hands, and they started clapping together in unison. Then suddenly the moon opened his big mouth and sang in a loud, booming voice, "I'm just the moon, but that's fine by me, as long as I can hear that boodly-dum-dee." And the cat opened its mouth wide and sang, "Whee!" And they looped the loop and turned in circles to the rhythm of the stars. But the little girl started to cry and said, "Oh, please, I want to go home." "Oh, no, you don't," cried the fly-by-night, and took the cat straight up as fast as they could go, and the stars seemed to flash past them like silver darts. "Please," cried the little girl, "take me back." "Spoil sport," yelled the fly-by-night, and he stopped the cat dead, and then tipped it over, and down they swooped so fast that they left their stomachs behind them at the top and landed on a silent hill. "Here you are," said the fly-by-night. "But this isn't my home," said the little girl, looking around at the dark, lonely countryside. "Oh, it'll be around somewhere, I expect," said the fly-by-night. "But we've come miles and miles from my home," cried the little girl. But it was too late. The fly-by-night had pulled back on the cat's whiskers, and away he soared up into the night sky. And the last the little girl saw of him was a black shape silhouetted against the moon. The little girl shivered and looked around her, wondering if there were any wild animals about. "Which way should I go?" she wondered. "Try the path through the wood," said a stone at her feet. So she set off along the path that led through the darkness. As soon as she got amongst the trees, the leaves blotted out the light of the moon. Branches clutched at her hair and roots tried to trip up her feet. As she thought, she heard the trees sniggering. Quietly, they seemed to say to each other, "That'll teach her to go off with a fly-by-night." Suddenly, she felt a cold hand gripping at her neck, but it was just a cobweb, strung with dew. And she heard a spider busy itself with repairs, muttering, "That'll teach her to go off with a fly-by-night." As the little girl peered into the wood, she thought she could see eyes watching her and winking to each other, and little voices that you couldn't really hear whispered under the broad leaves. What a silly girl! To go off with a fly-by-night. She should have known better. Eventually, she felt so miserable and so foolish that she just sat down and cried by a still pond. "Now then, what's the matter?" said a kindly voice. The little girl looked up, and then all around her, but she couldn't see anyone. "Who's that?" she asked. "Look in the pond," said the voice. And she looked down and she saw the reflection of the moon smiling up at her out of the pond. "Don't take on so," said the moon. "But I've been so silly," said the little girl, "and now I'm quite lost and I don't know how I'll ever get home." "You'll get home all right," said the moon's reflection. "Hop on a lily pad and follow me." So the little girl stepped cautiously onto a lily pad, and the moon's reflection started to move slowly across the pond and then down a stream, and the little girl paddled the lily pad after it. Slowly and silently they slipped through the night forest, and then out into the open fields they followed the stream, until they came to a hill she recognised, and suddenly there was her own house. She ran as fast as she could and climbed through the window of her own room and snuggled into her own dear bed. And the moon smiled in at her through the window, and she fell asleep thinking about how silly she'd been to go off with a fly-by-night. But you know, somewhere deep down inside of her, she'd half hoped that there'd be another tap on the window one day, and another fly-by-night offering her a ride on its flying cat. But she never did. Anyway, that was a bit of a strange one, but I enjoyed them. This book is really old and I've had it in my house since as long as I can remember. But if there are any books, your favourite stories that you might like me to read for you as a bedtime story, then maybe you could drop them outside my house on your daily hour of exercise, and I'll try and read those for you. Well, I hope you have sweet dreams and love you all lots. That's silly.